I want to talk about something slightly different from the usual Ireland versus America comparisons. Not the obvious stuff, not accents or food or pubs, the smaller things, the things you don't actually think about until you're actually on the ground running. And then you're suddenly like, hang on a second. Because Ireland on the surface should feel very familiar to Americans. Same language, similar media, a lot of shared references. So there's this assumption that everything will just translate. And then you realize there are all these small things that just don't. Not big enough to warn you about, but just enough to throw you slightly off. So these are some of the things that tend to catch Americans out when they actually spend time in Ireland. Okay, up first, people will downplay everything good about themselves and exaggerate everything bad. This is in total contrast to the American psyche, where you're encouraged to be proud of yourself.
Go me!
I mean, if you're not going to big yourself up, who will? We don't do that. We don't do that. Someone could be doing very well and describe it as grand or not bad, and you're left trying to figure out what that actually means. It's not dishonesty, it's just how people present themselves in Ireland. We are not braggadocious. It's why I think also Irish people seem very humble. If something's going really good, you downplay it. If something's going really bad, you don't tell everyone about it, you keep it to yourself. There's a pressure not to come across like you think too highly of yourself.
What a notion.
Oh, another thing you need to know is Irish seagulls are aggressive. And you might be like, oh yeah, seagulls. No, Irish seagulls are aggressive. If you are anywhere on the Dublin coastline in particular, they will eat your fish and chips out of your hand. So be careful. And also they're humongous. Next, light switches outside of the bathroom, or even a pull cord instead of a normal switch. When a visitor from America first noticed this in my house, I was like, huh?
Why are the bathroom light switches on the outside versus the inside? This is driving me completely crazy. Not only that, my son enjoys to turn the light switch off on his sister because he thinks it's hilarious.
And then I was like, oh yeah, that is weird. We do have the light switches outside of the room that you're going to be in sometimes. So in Ireland, bathrooms don't have electricity. It's like a no-no. I'm sure you've heard we don't let you use the hairdryer in the bathroom. There's no plug sockets. And that's something to do with the electronics and the grounding and the earth stuff. I don't know what I'm talking about. But basically, that is the reason we have the light switch also outside of the bathroom a lot of times. And sometimes it's a pull cord with the light. Sometimes that's inside the bathroom. But yeah, we now have power showers and stuff. So I guess it's usually the older builds that have that. Next up is directions. In America, you have blocks. And everything is easy to direct because, well, you have blocks. But in Ireland, we do not have blocks. Everything is higgledy-piggledy. You have little lanes, roadways and paths and corridors, and suddenly directions are a lot more complicated to both figure out and to give. And God love you if you actually ask an Irish human person for them. You'll get something along the lines of, right, you know that pub down beyond the green post box at the end of the road? Not the small one, the big one at the end. Well, you're not going to want to go left there. Go on straight, and then you'll see a big row of hedges with 2 signposts underneath them. You're going to want to go right there, and a bit of the way down you'll see a pub. There's usually a dog in the garden, just garage up from that, and don't turn off, go below to the next Good luck finding where you're going. But when it comes to crossing roads, we have some quirks there too, on foot. Okay, first up, you can jaywalk. You can totally jaywalk. We never wait to cross the road when there's no traffic coming. Oh, but if there's a little kid there, you absolutely wait. Like, that is an unspoken societal rule. Like, even if they are with their parents, you have to be shown to the child not to go until you see the little green man, because that's what we do, little child. Oh, and by the way, all of our pedestrian crossings are adapted for deaf people, so they vibrate, and blind people, so they make noise. Then the houses themselves. If you're used to American houses, Irish houses can feel very, very different. They're solid, concrete, block, brick, not drywall, never drywall. Well, some of the new builds may be drywall, but the walls in Irish houses are usually older than the entire continent of America. I dream of one day knocking down a wall like it's not a big deal. You can't just knock a wall in an Irish house. I always see these DIY people on TikTok. They're just like, I'm smashing in a wall to make a playroom for my child. You can't do that. It is a full-on construction job. It also changes how the house feels. Sound travels differently, heat behaves differently. Everything is a bit more fixed and hard. Also, Manners maketh the man. And you might think you are mannerly in America. Contextually, subjectively, maybe you are. But if you are travelling to Ireland, or indeed moving to Ireland, you need to step it up. Please and thank you are huge.
I'll have a...
Can I get a...
Instead of salad, I want fries.
I will have the porterhouse.
Give me the bagels.
Give me a beer!
Phrases like, can I get a, or I want a, or I'll have the... No, that's so rude. I get that it's not rude in America, but it's rude in Ireland. You please, you thank you please and thank you to everything. Oh, and very important, sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry, even if it isn't your fault. Even if it definitely isn't your fault. Asking anything extra is definitely sorry in the service industry. We do not have a service industry the same as yours. And I've heard Americans say that you guys thank the bus driver, but it's not optional in Ireland. Like literally, you are so rude if you don't say thank you and go out of your way to say thanks to the bus driver. Oh, and let's talk recycling. People realise recycling is so strict when they go to Ireland. Bins are sorted aggressively. Recycling, compost, general. So you might be thinking, oh, Irish people are so environmentally conscious. They recycle all the time. Well, we do it because it's literally forced down your throat. Otherwise, you will not have enough space to throw away your rubbish. In my family home, we have a green bin for all your plastic and your cardboard, a grey bin, which is your general waste, and a brown bin, which is anything compost worthy. And they're all only so big. Don't even get me started on the red bins, or when I lived in this one house and you had to go to the newsagent every week and buy a special sticker for your bin bag, depending on how big the bin bag was going to be. And then you just put the bins out on the street, and God love you if the birds came along and pecked at it, or a dog. That's your problem. That's the system. Anyway, the recycling bar, it's not really presented as optional. It's just how it works. The system is set up so you have to do it. There's also a charge on bottles that you get your money back when you return the bottle. It's like a deposit.
Every time you purchase a beverage in a plastic bottle or an aluminium can, you'll be charged a small deposit, 15 cent or 25 cent, depending on the size of the container. And when you bring that container back to a participating supermarket or shop, you'll get your deposit back by means of a voucher, which you can use against your next shop in that store, or you can redeem it for cash.
But it's massively overpriced anyway, and they add on this fee that's a fee unless you bring back the feckin' bottles. Also, and this always surprises people, and I get it, but Ireland is so green. Like when you fly over the country and you realise how green it is. They don't call it the Emerald Isle for nothing. It is like the Emerald City. So green. Visually. It's beautiful. So green. Yeah, I considered cutting it because it's such a stupid point, but then if I cut it, you wouldn't get to see how stupid her point is, so. Oh, then there's the locks. Americans are often frequently confused about how we manage to lock ourselves out of our homes. Well, most locks are very specific, slightly complicated, not always uniform. As with everything in Ireland, the doors and the latches and the locks might be older than time itself. They have multiple turns, specific positions, keys that don't behave the way you expect. You close one door from one side and it locks on the other. You leave the key in the door on one side and you're completely screwed. Your 500-year-old lock is now getting demolished by a locksmith at the cost of €400 when you call them on a Sunday. Safe to say, you will find yourself locking the door, checking it again, not because you're unsure, but because it feels like there's a step you might have missed. And finally, the hot and cold taps. No, these are not a relic of the past, but I suppose a lot of new builds do tend to eradicate them. Our hot and cold taps in traditional Irish homes are separate. So you have a hot tap and a cold tap, and you're somehow expected to manage the temperature. You fill the sink. Or you could like fix it yourself and then it becomes like a honeydew thing in your household, like somebody replaced those two taps with one tap. But it just is what it is. A lot of houses still have the hot and cold taps separately. And that really is the thread running through all of this. None of these things are dramatic, none of them are big deal breakers, but they're all slightly different from what you might expect. Ireland feels familiar until it doesn't. And that's where it gets interesting, because you're not dealing with super obvious culture shocks. You're dealing with Small things that don't quite line up, and you only notice them once you're already there. Anyway, let me know below in comments if there are any things that you've noticed that are subtly different. Shout out today to a couple of patrons. Our first shout out comes from the lovely Craig Babbitt, and he wants to go on the family genealogy theme this month. He wants to shout out his grandfather on his mother's side, who came to the USA as an infant and raised a family in some very tough years of the Great Depression, and all through World War II. This image shows his granddad on his great-grandmother's lap, and here's Craig's grandparents with his sister, and Craig is on her lap. Thank you so much, Craig. Our second shout out comes from Ricky Kerry, and he wants to big up all the animal shelters that take care of pets, including veterinarians, while waiting for pet parents to adopt for a forever home. Ricky reminds everybody that those who are unable to adopt a pet, donating food and supplies is a big help also. That is so true. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you so much, guys. That's it for today. See you on the other side. Bye.